Jay doesn't like living in the past, but I found out today that it's officially our 1 year anniversary hosting After Schmoe. How does it feel, Jay?
It's pretty cool. Nothing has really happened in my life since. I can't look back on day one and look at day whatever this is. What is it, 365? And say, look how far I've come, because I'm in the same spot. I'm sitting here podcasting from my office in my home. My dogs are probably chewing something in the next room. And I just ate a delicious kale salad.
You can't reflect on maybe how your relationships have grown, whether it be Mark or Christian or maybe Schmoeville, some of the other SK Plus guys. Like, none of that comes to mind at all?
It's just a thing.
I've been fortunate enough to get to know people like Frank and Taylor Robinson. And getting to talk to those guys has been really great. And I feel like there's this camaraderie between the people that do SK Plus, and I think that's really exciting. My relationship with Ellis has grown. Fernandez, well, obviously Fernandez, because I didn't even know him a year ago, but with Christian, I think our relationship's the same. I'm still sitting here, and I've just finished my kale salad.
Some would say it's deteriorated over time. I don't know. We'd have to ask him about that. No, I'm just kidding.
I actually would agree with that, because he used to I used to ask him when I knew that he had just left a screening. I used to ask him his takes on movies, like even before their review came out. Like the last bit of goodness I got from Christian was after Assassin's Creed, and he said it was a fart parade. And I remember this is absolutely true. I remember Emma Fife's first appearance on whatever it was, and he messaged me like after her appearance asking, "What'd you think of Emma?" And he like really valued my opinion on if Emma should be. Well, he might not have considered my opinion, but he asked me my opinion on Emma being involved with everyone there, whether it be Schmoes or Collider, and we haven't had a conversation like that in a long time.
One of the reasons why I don't really remember back a year ago is because I have CTE and I've been hit in the head one too many times, but I'm sure it's been a fun ride so far.
Christian thought you were an arrogant asshole or something to that effect, and
cocky prick.
That's what it was, cocky prick. And now Ellis calls you on the phone to see how you're doing.
Yeah, and sometimes I have to think about how to respond to him because self-conscious of whether or not we have enough in common.
The point of this discussion here, well, for one, we always shoot the shit at the top, but I just wanted to reflect, and we're just very privileged to be able to do what we do, and I think, especially since you've become my co-host, we've been able to relax.
That's right. It's a better show now.
It's a better show. You've made me more comfortable in my own skin. I feel like After Schmoe has truly given me, it's just helped me find my voice in this space. And so I owe a lot to After Schmoe and the people that have helped me do this along the way. So I'll thank you. And I want to thank all of our listeners too, because even lately, even like the past 3 weeks, it feels like our camaraderie with the listeners has really improved as well and increased. So I really value the conversation that we have, whether it's on Twitter or in the comments section. So very thankful for that.
You know what? It's funny because the week that you had to sit out was the week after I had made that sort of statement like, oh, if you've never commented, just comment now, and I want to see everybody who's out there, and we got that overwhelming like positive response, people just saying stuff like, hey, great show, keep up the good work, I don't comment normally. And that was just so eye-opening, because it's true. What they say is true. The negative usually outweighs the positive, and it was just so nice. It made me take a lot of the other bullshit that takes place in comment sections on YouTube. It just made me be like, you know what? Whatever. Who cares? Yeah. I'm here to entertain the people that like it.
Keep doing it, guys. Let's keep the conversation going, and follow me on Twitter.
Or donuts, whatever.
Welcome to After Schmoe, and after I've started speaking, I've decided that I need to take a drink. I'm Ryan Snelling.
My name is Jaye Williams. I'm looking around my office right now. There's just beer cans and other types of cans, and I think there's a styrofoam cup that you left here from last week. I haven't cleaned since last time that you were here. My office looks like Finstock's apartment.
Okay, well, imagine, you know I leave coffee cups all over the place when I go to your house, so imagine what my room looks like when I go to Starbucks every day before I come home. Also, LaCroix was 3 for 9 this week, so I've got LaCroix cans, LaCroix cans all over the place. So that's how Schnepp or Christian or somebody taught me to say it.
The flibble flamp.
Yeah, the scrimble scram, but yeah, very good.
Jon Schnepp this week. Well, I guess let me just kick it off with this. So I've mentioned it before. I don't usually get a chance to watch Movie Talk every single day. I'll dip in a couple times a week just to see what's going on, make sure the lights are still on in the new studio, make sure that Echo is still there, that we all know and love. And for whatever reason this week, even though I'm super busy at work, I decided to watch every single episode of Movie Talk Monday through Thursday, because obviously we're recording this on a Thursday. You have a really bad habit of pulling the trigger on every conversation we have on After Schmoe. You forget, I have an outline of notes. I have it organized. You're jumping too far ahead in the show. Yeah, but listen, I don't believe in that. I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful that you have it. But it's making sure that you're on your toes, and you never know where things are going to go.
For those of you who don't know, most interactions that Jay and I have, not just on Thursday nights when we record, pretty much every conversation Jay and I have, it is a pre-production meeting for After Schmoe. Like, throughout the week, we spend hours on hours having pre-pro meetings for the next episode of After Schmoe. Like, when we're not talking Collider on the air, we're talking Collider off the air. It's a bit obsessive, and
so this is how our minds are different. And this is why you're in that frame of mind of being very prepared, having your notes and this and that. I have never once in the over year and a half plus of us podcasting, I've never considered any conversation that we've ever had about podcasting a meeting that is in preparation for something else. It's always just been just talking. Just two people talking about shit that we do every week.
Yeah, what I'm saying is true, though. You're validating what I'm saying is true. You just never considered it pre-pro.
We shoot the shit. We shoot the shit at the top of shows. I'd never retain it like, let me make sure that I talk about this. I guess that's just where I lean on you, good friend. And like I said, I appreciate
it. We are absolutely going to talk about Schnepp, and we'll talk about Movie Talk. We have a lot to do today. It's mainly just going to be Collider because, I don't know, it's Thursday at 7 p.m. my time. I don't know. Maybe Harloff and Ellis will drop on tonight. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so on Ellis's... Let's see, what was it? The Strangers review that he did, he added like a little bit of like housekeeping stuff, which I don't know. It's just a very strange place to have housekeeping in the middle of a movie review that some people may or may not care about, which is, I'm fine with it. It was cool. I'm lucky that I watched the review, but he gave he gave some information about Harloff and Ellis this week, but I didn't understand what he meant by it. He said something like, we were going to do Harloff and Ellis, but wait until the live Schmoedown. And I was like, does that mean you're going to wait until after it? Like, it's going to come out Friday, or is it going to come out next week? Like, are you taking the week? I just couldn't understand it.
Yeah, I don't know. Jedi Council just dropped. Usually we record After Schmoe a lot later than we are tonight, but Jedi Council did just drop a couple hours ago. And Jay... Have you read the title of the show yet?
The only reason I read the title of the show is because our good buddy Luke Jaggers made me aware of what the title of the show was.
How do you think I reacted to the title of this Jedi Council?
I honestly have no idea. If I would have saw it, I just would have thought, oh, they must have not had a lot to talk about. But that's not always necessarily true. Jedi Council, I don't know who's responsible for titling videos for Movie Talk and Heroes and this and that. But Jedi Council typically has what I would consider typical, and I mean this in a good way, typical YouTube titling, where they might do an hour-long episode and the title could come from a controversial Twitter question.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that whole video could have been what the title was about, or it could have been a very small chunk of it. I don't know. I haven't watched it yet.
I mean, it's a great way to avoid constantly doing like a Rogue One reshoot kind of title. Because,
yes.
I mean, even with Sight and Sound Weekly, throughout the year, the same movie projects get brought up with different news, with reshoots, director changes, this and that. So you could have very redundant titles throughout the year, but titling a show with a Twitter question is a great way to avoid that. But yeah, I really liked how they separated Christian's rant when he was talking about Dave Filoni taking over Lucasfilm Creative and how that was a separate video. I really, really like that. I wonder if there's going to be more of that. I would like to see Schnepp rant about if he's going to rant about the DCEU inside of Heroes, I would like to see them separate that video. I think that would be really, really good for the channel.
So you are going to bring up a separate sort of tangent that is tied into this that I've been meaning to talk about for a couple of weeks now, but we've had bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
This whole idea and concept of the Collider shows that we know and love, retaining the sort of same shape that they have. So Jedi Council is once a week, for the most part, every single week. I don't know specifically, and this isn't a criticism, I'm just exploring different ways that the show could potentially work. Why can't they shoot multiple segments throughout the entire week and throw things in there that are more produced, more polished, and this and that? I don't know if maybe they are trying to retain that sort of podcast feel on every episode, but if that's the case, they are so dedicated towards the visual medium. I don't know. It's just something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. Like, could we use the time in the studio to be creating content for these shows, maybe to enhance them? I don't know.
Well, now that we are seeing Collider do more with less type of approach, they are pumping out Collider News, and Collider News has become more of a discussion. Because at first it was just a guy delivering the news and then a quick take, and then they were out. But now they're sitting there. They're mic'd up at the table, and they can spend a few minutes actually discussing it with someone else. So I think Jedi Council specifically is really good about that. If it's Benioff and Weiss, that announcement, they might make a separate video for it and spend about 15-20 minutes, and Christian can sit down with whoever and do that. Like, I think Jedi Council is really good about it, but I don't think Schnepp and Heroes really do anything for that, because
I remember taking a tour of Robert Meyer Burnett's Hot Toys collection that he edited together. Do you remember that back in the day?
Yeah, I guess we're talking about two different things if you're bringing that up. I guess I'm talking about, like, for example, it was just announced that Ava DuVernay, for whatever reason, is directing a New Gods movie for DC. I mean, what an ass backwards decision that is. I just don't want or need a New Gods movie.
You're not supposed to be talking about this right now?
I guess what I'm saying is, when that type of announcement comes out, it becomes Collider News, as opposed to like a section of Heroes with Schnepp and Amy Dallin or whatever. So fantastic point that you're bringing up. Something that I'm seeing Collider doing, and I don't think I ever would have picked this out and noticed this if I hadn't have watched Movie Talk every single day this week. So a lot of this, and this feels brand new. I've never noticed this before, but they might talk about a particular story on Movie Talk, and then even though they've had that conversation, they will then go and shoot a separate video about the exact same movie talk, or not movie talk, discussion as a news blurb to put it out there in the shorter form of content. It's fascinating. I think it's a great idea. It makes so much sense. And yes. I can see this more in the future where they, especially because I'm seeing more of a focus on social media and creating content for social media, which I champion, and we'll talk more about that later. But if they are chopping up highlights, so to speak, to sort of throw out and dish out to things, that is how a channel grows, right? You put out more content that's shorter form, that's reshareable. We've heard that word thrown around a lot. Yeah. And it seems like that's the goal, to do that. I do wonder, could they not just potentially chop up the Movie Talk episode? Then you're killing two birds with one stone. And I don't like birds, but you're not only promoting Movie Talk, but you're also doing the video, and you don't have to shoot a whole other thing, etc. So they have explored that in the past. They quit doing that. But that idea of doing a separate short form video for the same topic, it's also a great way to not only, have shareable content, but it's a great way to have other voices in on the discussion where Movie Talk can be, this set of 4 people, but the separate video could be people that weren't on Movie Talk that day, but also have a particular take. Yeah, because we talked about the fact that, I don't enjoy necessarily when Schnepp is on Movie Talk the day that comic book. I'm just really, really tongue-tied today, and I have no idea why. I feel like I've just been horrible on the mic, and I apologize. I do. I just feel like I'm.
Hey, it's all good.
It's all good. Let's take a drink here.
You want me to? Here, I'll take a vape. Do you feel better now?
Okay, you could have been courteous and not blown smoke into the mic.
Maybe I didn't. You would never know.
Oh, did you fake vape?
Let's talk about Jon Schnepp. What was your take on Schnepp?
No, I was just gonna say that I prefer that if big comic book news drops like on a Monday or Wednesday, I prefer Schnepp not be on the panel for Movie Talk, because I'm going to hear his take later on Heroes. So that gives someone else an opportunity to speak on the matter instead of having Schnepp recycle his take.
Yeah, I get that, and we've talked about that quite a few times. It seems like anytime there's big movie news that comes out, is it potentially going to be cannibalized by the fact that Movie Talk is the flagship show? Like, they get the opportunity to talk about it and discuss it first. I think that's so. The way I'm sort of wrapping my head around a lot of creative content lately is just this idea of being a black belt in something. So to be on Movie Talk, you have to be a black belt in movies, right? You have to have a diverse knowledge of things and quick to talk about pretty much anything. Whereas these shows like Jedi Council and Heroes, you've got to be a black belt in that specific topic, not just a black belt, but whatever is above that, a black belt with some stripes on it. You've got to be that, and that's what I'm looking for, is just the even deeper dive into that discussion. That's what we get. It just is, I get what you're saying, though. It is unfortunate that we do get to see, maybe not unfortunate, it's not the right word, because we can't expect the entire audience to cross over to Movie Talk, but sometimes it can be potentially redundant if you get Jon Schnepp or Christian giving the same sort of take on something.
So not only am I stumbling around with my words today, and this further proves I shouldn't be a host of After Schmoe a year later with Jay, because I'm still stumbling. I gave Jay shit for jumping all over the place, and I realized that I still haven't gotten to my first point in my notes.
I would never know.
So real quick, I wanted to address something that we spoke about last week. It's Michael Rappaport. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, I'm going to spend very little time. I'm going to get in, get out with this topic. Jay can say whatever he wants after I'm done. But I've had a week to breathe on this topic, and I've seen a lot of other people reacting to this. People commented on our video and talked about Rappaport. A lot of people love him. A lot of people don't. So what I will say, and I worked some of this out with Jay as well. We talked a lot about Rappaport this past week. I've done more research. I've just decided that Rappaport, I don't need Rappaport on Movie Talk anymore. If it means that it goes against all, part of me thinks that having Rappaport is sort of a backwards move compared to everything else that I want them to do. We want them to be more diverse. We want them to bring in people that are knowledgeable when they speak. Just sort of like you just said, that you just brought up what makes a great Movie Talk panelist. And I like the idea of having a disruptor. I like the idea of having someone bursting the movie fandom bubble, if you will. But it doesn't have to be somebody who's as polarizing and abrasive. And there are a lot of things. Like the Lebitard thing, I don't care about that. I'm Team Lebitard, and I don't think what Rappaport did on Twitter, I spoke about it last week, I don't think what he did was right, but it didn't affect how I took in Movie Talk until I did a little bit more research into other things that he's done, and I've just decided that we don't need that. And I totally get the people that enjoy it, but I also understand the people that don't. And ultimately, I just don't know if we need him on Collider or on Movie Talk anymore. I guess my final thought on it is I trust the people in that building to make the best decision, and maybe they have had conversations about it since, hopefully, maybe, if Jay and I sparked some kind of debate or conversation based on what we talked about last week on After Schmoe. I trust all of those people in that building. I trust Ellis and Fernandez and Christian and whoever else to have a conversation. How does Rappaport on Movie Talk affect the brand, affect the company, and affect the show? And if it's up to a vote, whether he stays or goes, I will trust whatever decision that they make. I don't even know if they feel like they have to do that, but I've certainly seen a lot of backlash since that happened. So I just wanted to make sure we covered it because I didn't want certain people to think that we were totally ignoring it last week.
Yeah, I mean, so just to sort of unpack specifically what you said, I think one thing that Collider could use is some sort of show that lends itself better to having guests on the show. I look at a show like Ladies' Night. That show is essentially designed around having a guest on there and having these fun games and this and that. I appreciate that. For one, people love Movie Talk. It's their flagship show. So I think anytime you mess with that, I'm not saying that it shouldn't be messed with, but anytime it is messed with, people are going to have an issue, of course. So I think Collider could use a show that exists that does lend itself to having guests of all types on there, movie lovers, not movie lovers, athletes, musicians, gamers, whatever the case may be. And maybe you talk a little bit about movies in a more general sense. In terms of the debate that we, brought up last week and this and that, Michael Rappaport is a polarizing individual. He knows that he's a polarizing individual. It is his goal to be a polarizing individual and get under your skin no matter what, right, wrong, or indifferent. That's what that's what his brand is as a personality and a guest on shows, inside of Collider and outside of Collider. Regardless of how you feel, if you like him or if you don't like him, nothing that we can say can change that. It's just not going to happen. At this point, it's like politics or religion. Like, you can have an educational discussion about it, but at the end of the day, probably nothing is going to change. But with all that being said, all we can do is talk about what we specifically see here. I think the best way to remedy it, if anybody wants to have a place on Movie Talk, not on Movie Talk, on Collider, just make sure it lends itself properly to whatever sort of content that is actually coming out, whether it's a Schmoes No Live show, Ladies' Night, or something new in general, comic book shopping. Yeah.
Let's talk about all of the new faces, the new voices that we've had on Collider this week. And
a lot.
A lot. While we let's talk about why we value these people. And I'm probably going to forget a few names, but Dorian Parks, not only did he appear on the Inner Geekdom match earlier this week, but he's also the guy running social media at Collider. I think his first day was actually today. So I just wanted to shout out Dorian, and maybe we'll get him on After Schmoe, and he can tell us a little bit about his job once he gets settled in. Very excited to see more from him. Hopefully he appears on some other shows or maybe some other content across the channel. We also got Markea McCarty. She's been on the past couple weeks now. She was on Movie Talk today. I saw her on Heroes on Monday with Joelle. So very good to see her. And we also had Dean Collins, who was Rappaport's boy. Dean Collins is my age. And not only is he an actor, he's a panelist on Movie Talk.
Andrew Guy as well, making his Movie Talk debut.
Guy. Yeah, that's right. The reason why I love Joelle and Markea, is that how you pronounce it, Markea? I hope so.
I have no idea.
The reason why I like them on Heroes is because I felt this way. I'm not saying it's rightful or justified, but I was surprised to hear how knowledgeable they are with comic books. They have a very rich history with comic books going back into their youth, and I'm just saying I didn't know that about them, because up until this point, Joelle, she's talked a lot about TV and movies, but I've never heard her dive deep into comics, and I'm obviously learning more about Markeia just in general. So I really, really like that they are around right now. And the reason why I bring this up too is because I follow Dani Fernandez on Twitter, and she just had a really clever tweet where guys continue to message her and tell her that they're shocked. They can't believe that she's into anime. And I guess they're insinuating that because she's a female. I'm not saying I'm not new to the idea that women like this type of thing. It's the fact that I feel so pleased and happy to just hear an alternative take on all of it. Because when you look back at Heroes, for the most part, it's Schnepp, Robert Meyer Burnett, and of course you do have Amy Dallin, but that was the panel for months. And they were and now we've seen Coy Jandreau interject there, and so I'm glad to see a lot of these fresh faces on these shows, and I just think it's fantastic. That's part of the mission. That's part of the mission that I think Collider wants to be on right now.
To be fair to what you're saying, though, too, before anybody does get it like twisted or anything like that, I think your reaction is the same reaction that you would have about anybody that you didn't know was as into something as they actually are. Like, if I just came onto the show all of a sudden and just started telling you everything I knew about lizards or something like that, wouldn't you just be like, where the fuck is this going from? I had no idea. Not in like a disrespectful way, but it's like, goddamn, Jay knows a lot about lizards, and I had no idea. Yeah. That's crazy.
It sort of reminds me of how when people react when they find out that I'm a Bruce Lee historian. Or any
I had no idea. I thought you were joking. I thought it was a part of a bit. In fact, to this day, you've done nothing to really reinforce that. I'm not saying that you're not. I'm just saying that you sort of just casually threw it out there, and then when you double down on it, you normally don't double down on things that you joke about, so I kind of just accepted, like, Ryan's a fucking Bruce Lee dude.
Did you know that he died from an allergic reaction to hashish?
Yes. Actually, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Is that true? Somebody fact checked that.
It is true. It also reminds me of how surprised I am every time Christian says Superman is his favorite superhero.
Oh my God, right?
I'm just like,
every time he says that, I just, not only am I like, what? Oh yeah, I forgot about that, but I also kind of just, I'm like, damn it. Superman, really?
No, it's not even that. Every time I hear it, I'm surprised, and then I think, like, no, he isn't. Like, I just want to instantly deny it. Like, Christian, he's just not your favorite superhero. Like, I'm telling you it's not. You're lying. Quit lying to us. That's just how I feel every time he says it. I've just never seen evidence of that ever.
Yeah. It's like, anyway. Yeah, it's like claiming well, I guess this does work for him. It's like claiming that your favorite baseball team is the New York Giants, or your favorite football team is the Patriots or the Packers. It's like, oh yeah, is that it? Is that your favorite team?
Anyway, who else have you seen that you're enjoying at Collider? All the new faces, the new voices.
Well, I mean, you basically touched on everybody for the most part. I kind of want to examine all of this in an interesting way through the After Schmoe lens, as we typically do. I love getting new personalities on the shows. I think it's fantastic. I think it's good. I like exploring, obviously, diversity. I love exploring diversity in age as well. I think it's really nice. However, I do think there's a way, especially after watching it, a way to do it and a way not to do it that I personally like from my own perspective. We've talked, for anybody that's new here to After Schmoe, especially because we've talked so heavily about Collider lately, we've often brought up this thing in regards to the Schmoes Know live show called The Curse of the Fourth Chair, which is essentially, it's the spot that they stick a lot of rotating members of the table, a lot of first-timers, a lot of people who just haven't been on that much, guests and this and that, who are expected to be just as much a part of the conversation as anybody else on the show. And because it's such a hectic show, there's a lot of crosstalk going on, this and that. They find themselves a little bit lost sometimes. That's just how it is. It just happens. There's people that have overcome it and this and that, but that's something that we talk about. We went on this stretch of movie talk here recently where they had shrunken things down. They had a 3-person table. Now going back to the 4-person table, I found it a little bit not peculiar, but just interesting noticing and realizing how long it was taking to get back around to the table. And it made me uncomfortable, honestly. Like, and that's nobody's fault. It's not Mark's fault. It's not even really the show's fault. It's just sometimes people have long takes and you want them to have their opinion and this and that. But I think for the show to feel more like a conversation, I think the show lends itself better to 3 people, especially when there's somebody new at the table. When there is a new person, so let's just take, for instance, Andrew Guy. If that table is Christian, Mark, Andrew Guy, not only does it take a lot less time to come back around to him, but I just feel like there can be a little bit more conversation and back and forth going on between them. There were times when I thought, what's Rappaport's boy's name?
Dean Collins.
There was times when Dean Collins, where I feel like he would give his take. For instance, he had that take about Spike Lee today on today's episode that at first Mark even addressed it, was like, oh, you're kind of going outside the box. This is sort of against the grain of what the collective opinion is or this and that potentially. But then by the time he got back around to him, that whole point was kind of lost. And he'd even kind of changed his opinion about it or maybe come back on it. But it still would have been an even more interesting conversation if they would have just been locked into that for a second.
The other thing I've noticed, too, with these fresh faces is, I don't know, I feel like some people need to... trying to think of how I want to do this. It's noticeable to me when certain guests are better than others, you know what I mean? Because like right now, like I said, everything is a pre-production meeting for me. So when I watch this person's first appearance on Movie Talk, I'm instantly downloading into my brain, okay, that appearance wasn't as strong as this person's first appearance. So like I see a difference in Andrew Guy on Movie Talk versus like a Marquet on Movie Talk. Like one is noticeably stronger than the other. And I sort of talked about it even last week as well with Jay Washington, how I wasn't necessarily connecting with some of his points when he's on the show. And I'm not taking anything away. Like, he's obviously a great personality, and I respect the shit out of the hustle and the drive, but he does have that 4th chair curse where sometimes I feel like he's not truly expanding on the topic like I'd want another panelist to. Like, sometimes just for me, I can noticeably tell when said appearance is not as good as another appearance. And so I would like to, I don't know how you get around that, especially there are some topics that just, I'm thinking about buy or sell. Sometimes a movie trailer comes out and there's just not a whole lot to say, and I get that. But just in general, though, I think the formatting of Movie Talk has been really, really good. Like, just getting rid of the sidebar just feels like you have like 4 main topics. That's just sort of how I feel about it, right?
Yeah, and, you know, to your point, I respect your point on Jay Washington, and I get it, especially if you're not really connecting with his point of view, so to speak. That's fine. There's some people in sports and in comedy and this and that some of their points I just don't connect with all the way. I still listen to him and this and that. But one thing that I appreciate about Jay is the fact that he brings to the table something that you just can't find everywhere else, which is a personality. So I'm just some dude sitting in Kentucky in his office podcasting about Collider right now, but we look at this stuff with a magnifying glass, and one thing I would say to anybody that's going on to Collider for the first time is I think we all need to realize this. Just coming on to a show about movies and being able to have a smart conversation about movies is just having that aspect in your arsenal, you can easily just become another potential face, if that makes sense. Like, we have a lot of people that can have smart conversations about movies. Having a personality, having something that makes you stand out. I'm not saying people need to go on there and act like Bozo the Clown or something like that, but I'm just saying, like, or prove how much they know about lizards. But it's just the point that coming to the table, just having done a lot of homework and a lot of research, in my opinion, it's not enough to have a lasting impression. Do you agree with that at all?
Yes, I think so. I think if you're going to blend those two elements together, that smoothie is like a Jon Schnepp or a Clark Wolf, someone that has,
or a Mark and Christian, somebody that has stand-up comedy background, and
that's sort of a given. I just
they can fart into the microphone and this and that.
Yeah. But like, whereas Jay, I connect with his personality and maybe not his point of view, or, someone else, I connect with their point of view, but maybe not their personality necessarily. Like the people who have both is like a Clark Wolf or a Schnepp or a Joel or Robert Meyer Burnett.
Absolutely.
Like, those are the ones that really stand out to me when I think about who has it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, even somebody like a Jeremy Jahns, honestly, even though, like, I sort of had that thing with Jeremy that you have with Jay Washington. Like, he can obviously talk about movies, but he has a personality that some people can latch onto. Obviously, he's a massive reviewer on YouTube. And there's so many different sides to that coin of having a personality. It's not just being funny. It's not just being wild and wacky. One of the things that I appreciate and I fucking love about Clark Wolf, oh my God, she crushed it on Movie Talk this week. On Movie Talk, when they started talking about this Quentin Tarantino film, she had a point.
Yes.
That sort of went against the grain of the rest of the table. She spoke with so much authority, and she was so strong in where she stood. She spoke with so much authority. She was so educated on the matter and had her point of view just buried in concrete that it literally shifted everybody's perspective. And then the way she played it out, she dropped the mic on the whole table at the end of the conversation. It was like, oh yeah, you're still giving a little bit of leeway to this story. How about the fact that he's putting the movie out on the anniversary of these murders? And I was just like, are you fucking kidding me right now? This is grade A level. I mean, This is a perfect Movie Talk showing for me. I just was like so appreciative of her perspective on the show.
Absolutely. You told me about that moment. You had seen it before I did. I spoke about it last week, but that was just solidification. She has been killing it, just absolutely killing it. I don't know if it's because of Sending the Wolf is out and she's just trying to do more and go big or go home, but she is killing it right now. And I really, really hope she has a presence in some way on the podcast network as well. Like, I think that podcast network has to have her as a voice on it.
One of the things that I appreciate about her so much too, and I guess this is just the Clark Wolf fan club segment of the show, which I have no problem doing, but a lot of these shows out there, a lot of these pop culture shows and movie shows, and I mean even Sight and Sound and After Schmoe, they have a shtick about them. It's like movie show or pop culture show with this to it. One of the things because what's funny about this whole conversation is because of her appearance on Movie Talk, I actually listened to her podcast this week. I sought it out. I listened to it. That was how strong of a showing it was. And I just love that she doesn't have a shtick. She just likes to talk about movies.
Yeah.
That's all she wants to do. Doesn't have to be new. It doesn't have to be specifically topical to, oh, there's an Avengers movie coming out. Let's talk about the best team-up movies ever. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But she just loves talking about movies. And she has sharpened her axe, and so much so that it shows through. Her personality is just her passion of movies.
People like me have to fake their character. They have to fake their personality, but not Clark Wolf.
I've never faked one take in my entire life.
Speaking of Jon Schnepp, this is just a quick tidbit. I loved it so much. I thought about you. I could not wait to tell you.
The Woozle What's It?
No, it happened on Heroes yesterday. It was the epitome of Jon Schnepp. And when this happened, not only was I laughing out loud, but I could hear you laughing with me. It was just everything that is Jon Schnepp could be summed up into this one perfect moment on Heroes yesterday. So you know how he's been calling the DCEU the DCFU?
Yes.
And it's obviously, supposed to mean fuck you, and he's making fun of the brand, and so he throws that out there, and then he stops, and on a quick aside, on a quick tangent, he goes, a lot of people have been asking me why I'm calling it the DCFU. It's actually something that came out. It was released. The DC film universe. The DCEU was made up by some blogger, and he was going on, and finally Amy Dallin stops him and says, "Did that really happen?" And he looks at her for a minute and then turns back to the camera and is like, yeah, well, it could have happened. And he completely walked his statement back. Like, oh my God, it was so beautiful, because as it was happening in real time, I'm like, you're not actually describing the way that it went down. It was just so perfect, because we have brought up so many moments like that from Schnepp. You also brought up, what was the instance where you thought he was calling us out this week that was so funny? Do you remember?
I don't even think Jon Schnepp this week.
No,
exists.
Jokingly calling us out. I'm not seriously.
I know. I'm just addressing it. Like, there was one point where they were talking about this whole news of Deadpool basically having bad test screenings and this and that, and there was one point, it was like an episode where it just seemed like everybody was turning to the camera to give like a deeper message. There was just one point where he turned to the camera and was like, "Yeah, we've all let things leak and slip and put out news that we didn't mean to necessarily let out of the bag, but I stand by every single story that I've ever put out there." And I was just like, oh shit.
Yeah, he stands by Moon
talking
Knight.
about Moon Knight?
Yeah, he stands by Moon Knight being in The Punisher. Yeah.
And that's fine. Look, listen, we're not picking on Schnepp. This is what we love about Jon Schnepp.
I love it. We had that was a whole other conversation we had. We talked about if Collider should be in the business of that kind of thing or providing hot takes, and that's one of my favorite things about Schnepp, is that he doesn't operate the same way that a Christian Remark would. So it's great.
Do you still feel like they're somewhere caught in between those two things of breaking news versus hot takes, or do you think that that's sort of what their brand is, to just have a foot in both?
I don't know. It's going to get harder too, because they are making it a point to involve the .com even more. Like, Frosty came on to address the Deadpool reshoots and the test screenings and things like that, and so they gave Frosty that moment to sort of clear the air and drop scoops. That, I mean, I know what I want them to do, but
yeah,
I think it's either going to be more on the breaking news side of things, like the .com, or they're gonna continue to kind of do both in a weird, awkward way.
Yeah, and you know what? I think what I'm coming to terms with is the fact that they might have a perspective on it, kind of like how we have a perspective with Sight and Sound, where it's sort of a business move to be breaking these news stories. Like, that's how, if you're topical and you're talking about very topical breaking news types of things, then you're going to get those quick hits and those quick followers and this and that. It's sort of how we look at YouTube versus podcasting. Like, I feel like if we could just make a career out of podcasting for the rest of our lives, we would totally do it. And that's something we really want to do. But the YouTube thing, we realize and we understand that is a prime model for us to, advance our careers and this and that. But so we've come to terms with that, and that's sort of how I feel that Collider is doing. They're coming to terms with the news stuff, and it just so happens it's very nice that they have this website that actually specifically does that. So I think you're right. I think they're kind of feeding each other there.
Christian just got the Last Jedi Blu-ray. He posted a picture of it on Instagram, and he said that a commentary was coming on the channel. I just wanted to ask you, Who do you think should do?
I voted.
Who do you think should do the Last Jedi commentary for Collider Video? I'm curious. Like, who's your dream panel for a Last Jedi commentary? And you can go two ways on this, Jay. You can include the people that love Star Wars the most, the people that maybe are regulars on Jedi Council, or you can include everyone who just doesn't give a shit about Star Wars at all, maybe people that don't like the movie. Who give me 4 names. Who would you like to see on the Last Jedi commentary?
So I did give my selection. I commented on the Instagram post, and my selection was Christian, Mark, Cody Hall, and Copster. The reason why I selected those 4 people, obviously because we're big fans of the Schmoes, we love Mark and Christian, but also I've never seen all 4 of those people interact together, and for something that was taken so seriously as The Last Jedi, I just feel like it would be a lot of fun to see those 4 people just trying to, like, I could see Christian like trying to break down like some scene where there's all this background and mythology, and then like Cobster talking about how people shouldn't watch trailers, and then Cody going off on some tangent talking about Pokemon or something like that. I just think it would be great. And then Mark just laughing at the whole thing. I think that would be great too.
I asked you that question, but I actually didn't prepare an answer for myself. So there's that. I want to talk about this Tommy Wiseau video, and I think a lot of people, even them. Sorry, I just hit my microphone. I think it's my throat. I think my throat is dry. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know what's going on with me.
It's the LaCroix. I've told you this. We've talked about this on Sight and Sound, that the LaCroix does the opposite. It does the opposite of quenching your thirst. It makes your mouth more dry. And you know what? This is a really off topic. You have a friend named Eric that said, he had this take about LaCroix. He said, well, if you really want to quench your thirst, you should just drink real water. And I was like, what the hell's wrong with you? We can drink whatever we want. But LaCroix makes your mouth more dry.
I think it does. It's like, well, I was quoted as saying,
I know it does.
I was quoted as saying that LaCroix is just sandpaper water.
I introduced you to LaCroix, and I'm telling you from experience that it just doesn't work.
I love LaCroix. I just think it was a bad decision to drink it while podcasting. I am so uncomfortable. Yes. I don't feel like I'm on for the show. I just feel so disorganized. I don't know what's going on with me. What a weird way to do my 2-year anniversary or whatever it is.
So let's move on to my notes now. Let's get into talking about.
Let's do the Tommy Wiseau thing.
I didn't watch it.
Oh, you don't have to have watched it. Well, maybe you kind of did.
Should I just have given a fake take?
All right, yeah. Prepare your fake take. I'll go on and provide my input here. The Tommy Wiseau video, I know everyone is excited about Tommy Wiseau. We're excited as an audience. We're fascinated by this person. Same goes for the people that work at Collider. They were thrilled to have him in studio, get to toss the football with him, all that good stuff. But again, I'm downloading Collider content, and I'm thinking about After Schmoe. The Tommy Wiseau is great. He's a great get for the studio. We talked about how they seem to be really bringing in some big names since the big announcement, the town hall announcement. But the format, though, the format of this video, Jay, when you watch it, the format of the video is what blew me away the most. Like, it was Ellis and Tommy sitting down in director's chairs, just talking back and forth. Ellis was interviewing him, but it wasn't like when Perry sits down with the director in front of the red curtain. Like, it was more than that. It was a produced video. It was intercut between Tommy walking through the studio and the room and the disaster artist. Like, it was this produced interview, like docu-series type thing that was totally unique to what's been done there before. Like, I would kind of relate it more so to the top 50 superhero movie format than I would anything else. Like, it was just so special and particular, and I was really, really taken by it. And not only was it great, and not only, I really, really want to see more of that on the channel, but it was also going back to implementing the .com side of things. It was great video content for collider.com as well. Like, I think about if you wanted to go to collider.com, and if you go to it right now, it appears like a movie blog. But if it wanted to look like a journalist website, like a CNN, or maybe you don't have to go that big. If you wanted a video to catch eyeballs, this would be the type of video that you do it with, in ways that like posting or sharing a link to Movie Talk can't do on the .com. I thought this was just great video content for that, and I'm really disappointed you didn't watch it.
Well, see, actually, I did get to watch it, and one of the things that I really appreciate about this is the fact that we knew about this interview a while ago. We remember Christian and Mark actually talking about it on Harloff and Ellis, and it makes so much sense that it took a little bit longer to get out, because I thought it looked absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite things after watching this was just how infectious everybody felt within the video itself. I mean, we've seen them talk to some really big name people, but their fandom, their enjoyment, their passion for seeing this man walk through their studio, it was just, I could feel it, and I could thrive off of that energy. And you're absolutely right. I mean, listen, we've seen Taika Waititi interviews, we've seen Rian Johnson interviews, and people get those interviews here and there. But one of the best things about Tommy Wiseau is the fact that you never really know what he's going to get, and people are going to click on videos like this. So I really do enjoy the fact that they can take the time and put together something like this and be so self-aware that this is going to get a lot of eyeballs. So they want to put the best touch that they can on it, and I thought it looked absolutely fantastic.
Let's talk about Collider Jukebox. For those of you who don't know what Collider Jukebox is, I'm sure a lot of you don't know.
This is one of the most odd things that we're about to talk about, because it's not something that was on the channel. It's something that took place on social media, probably inside of a bubble of people, but we want to talk about it.
So, let's provide the backstory a little bit. This was Collider Jukebox was an idea. Don't take the name with a grain of salt, because our good buddy Michael K came up with the name, but it's more about the idea of this in general. So we know from the Town Hall and from the Hollywood Reporter, Collider is going to expand. They might do video, or they are going to do video games. They might do wrestling. Collider can be a lot of things. It can cover a lot of things. Someone naturally brought up the idea. I've seen a few people post about it in the Schmoeville Facebook group specifically. This idea of Collider covering music. The first thing I thought when I heard this was, well, just go listen to Sight and Sound, because we already do that.
And to be fair, a lot of people that we have crossover audience with, they do point them in that direction.
Yes, that's right. And I use the excuse, it's on SK Plus. That's how I promote Sight and Sound here and on the Schmoeville Facebook group. But anyway, then I start to think about what it would actually look like, because I think a lot of people, they were behind this idea. Like, they wanted. I think a lot of people want Collider to cover.
Some steam. It definitely picked up some steam on Twitter.
And people want Collider to cover music. And the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I cringe at the idea of this happening. And I'm not saying that I don't want Collider to cover music in general, but as of right now, the way that people are doing it in the Schmoeville group, they are just assuming that the people in place there right now can cover music. I personally don't think that's the case at all. So while I like the idea of eventually Collider covering music, I don't think it can be done by anyone that is on screen covering movies right now at Collider. What's your reaction to that?
So, not only is this a strange thing to talk about because it wasn't necessarily something that was out in front of a bunch of people to see, and we're sort of just reporting on something that happened with the fans, and that's completely fine, but this is very strange and odd and even a little bit awkward for me personally to talk about, because this is for people that don't know, I've been podcasting for almost 5 years now. And for the entire time, that 5 years, I've been creating content about music. That's what I wear my quote unquote black belt, whatever you want to put a label on it. I'm the music guy of Sight and Sound. Not only am I the music guy, I've been reporting on music stuff for over a decade. Like, I used to have a music blog. It's just something I'm very, very passionate about. Ryan could speak to that. So it was just a little strange for me to see this. But what I want to do before I go on any further, I actually want to ask you this question. So you are the movie guy. You are more related to everybody there in the Collider studio, and you actually have been given the task on a weekly basis of having music conversations, being a casual fan of music and this and that. Tell me how much of a challenge you think it is from your perspective.
I think it would be harder to pull off than, say, Collider TV Talk. And
well, I mean specifically for you personally, as a movie person coming into the music space to have music conversations.
Music is extremely widespread, so the fact that I'm not involved in the bubble the same way that I am with movies, it's hard realizing how little you know about like certain artists' backgrounds. Like, I can have an opinion if I listen to an album, no matter who it is, I can have an opinion on it, but it takes a little bit more than that. You have to know the history, discography, just there are so
genre familiarity.
Yes, there are artists there are brand new artists that I hear about every single day, and I might be surprised. I might go and listen to a single, but again, I'm not involving myself with the entire history of said group or said artist. So you have to already be just so on top of what's happening in music. Otherwise, I just don't think it can be done. And like I said, it's so much harder, I think, than covering TV, at least in my opinion.
TV is the closest thing to it. So, listen, being an expert, I'm just going to say this right now, being an expert on movies and being able to discuss, especially movie news and this and that, is just a completely different ball game, completely different planet, completely different sport than music. Just trust me. I spend what time I'm not talking about Collider and paying attention to Collider, I'm literally studying every single thing that goes on in music in terms of news, in terms of, you know, everything that I should be paying attention to in order to do a show. And I still struggle on a weekly basis. Not only that, but anytime you speak about music, there is no collective consciousness of music. It just does not exist.
Right.
Anytime you utter anything about music, you are already going to swiftly isolate an audience that just doesn't care. And it's just incredibly, incredibly challenging for a music show. You can do a music show on Collider that's just very basic and very simple, where it's just like, hey, we're here with Perry Nemiroff. Who are some of your favorite musicians? That's one thing. But like a movie talk on music, it just can't happen in an efficient way,
right,
in an effective way. In order for them to do that, they would need to have an entire other staff the same size that they already have, that are black belts in music. And there are people in the space that definitely exist that could probably do that. I think Ace is somebody that could definitely talk about a lot of music. I think RB3 is someone.
Pretty much all of the Wanger crew. The Wanger crew, as it exists now, are the only group of people that I trust to cover music.
Yeah, if we were going to have a show specifically about classic rock, I would go to Mark Ellis 100%. In fact, he probably has more classic rock knowledge than I do. And, you know, listen, if you guys are really, really interested in it, I would be more than happy to reach out to anybody in this space, at least attempt to reach out to anybody in this space and bring them on to my music show that I do every week and have these conversations. I get it. I know that you want to hear these people talk about music because they're personalities that you enjoy. But, you know, I get worried because I know, and Ryan knows because he's dipped his toes in the waters, just how you think fucking Star Wars is unforgiving? Ask Ryan what his response was to the Parkway Drive video that he did.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a different world. Just trust me.
I don't even want to make this a Snelling and Jaye thing. Like, yeah, I'm only an expert in one genre of music, but I want to actually talk about what fans are actually asking of Collider. Like, I want people to realize what it would look like as it sits right now, them covering music. Like, Jay Washington can come in and cover Kendrick Lamar. I have no doubt about it. I know that Schnepp can talk about metal. He can probably talk about some weird ass music. I remember asking him to just throw out 3 bands that he was listening to at a particular point, and they were just the most absurd things that I had never heard of in my life, and they were so weird when I listened to them. I'm not saying that these people don't have their music fandoms. I worry that it's dated. That's why I go to the Wangers, because they're younger, and I know that RB3 and Ace are very well versed in hip hop, and I think Cody and maybe more so Copster know more about the kind of music that I belong to. But the reason why I equate it to TV talk is because even though there might be people there that know a lot about a few particular artists or a genre of music, you get them together, and then you have you brought it up, you have the same issue that TV Talk has, where you have one show about so many things that are so widespread that just don't, like, it's a problem when you design a show like that to involve everyone, because you actually exclude a majority of your audience. And again, to your point, when talking about what it would actually look like on Collider, you could have a great conversation with Mark Ellis about classic rock, but that's not how you grow Collider. You do not grow Collider with a classic rock show. It would have to be, like you said, it would have to be a completely separate team that operates similarly to how movie coverage does on the channel, but with a completely different team of experts. And that's just not gonna happen right now.
The last 2 things I'll say about this, then we'll move on. 2 of the biggest music news, pretty much the 2 of the biggest like movie talk-ish type of music news that's come out this week is the fact that Ben Howard is working on a brand new album, and Basement are working on a brand new album. How confident are you? You know what I'm saying? Like, how confident are you? Yeah, it's just tough. The last thing I'll say about this, I've made this point before many times. There is no such thing, as it currently stands, as a Collider for music. There is a reason for that. I'm not saying that it can't be done. It could be done. That's something that I've been trying to work towards for a long time. But there's a reason why it doesn't exist. It's very, very difficult.
So let's use this to transition
to a pee break.
So I had a drink of water. I don't know if it's going to help. I think I'm just going to have to settle for being terrible on this episode. So I apologize. But let's use... I want to talk about these youngins. Collider. Cobster. I called Cobster Collider.
He is the silent owner.
Collider and Cody hosted this. Anyway, the debut of Caption This was today.
Okay, wait. Time out.
Just go
okay, ahead. Listen. Just go. Here's how I want to do this. This is the first apparent quote unquote new show for Collider. I want to walk through our reaction to hearing about that there's going to be a new show, what we would potentially anticipate, finding out what it was called, thinking about what the concept could be,
right,
and then watching it, and then after the fact, our thoughts. So you heard that they're developing this new show and it's going to come out. What is your immediate first reaction?
It was by way of Instagram post. It was a picture of Stallone covered in mud, and they just in the caption they said, "We're starting a new show. Caption this. Link your favorite comment, or comment below your favorite caption, blah blah, or your own original caption."
Did you think just by that right there? Were you thinking just from that? Did you think short form or long form?
I thought it was going to be on Instagram.
Okay, interesting. I like that.
Yeah, I thought that they were just going to rattle off. Well, I'll get to that because that sort of involves how they've handled it so far. but we talked about it. When I was trying to envision what this would look like, my mind immediately went to like what Joel McHale does. Joel McHale on The Soup, and now he actually has the Joel McHale show on Netflix now. It's a Tosh.0 format where you're standing in front of a green screen and clips and things are being fed to you, like sort of like in the way that a news anchor would have clips and things fed to him. As it would appear. I also thought of it like at midnight. Like I thought that there would be like panelists at Collider that are sort of captioning these pictures, and then they also used the audience's captions. So I had those formats in my head, but to answer your question in a very short form way, because you also asked me, how long do you think this is going to last? How long do you think this can be sustained? And I said about 3 minutes. And as it sits, it's about 6 minutes. But that's immediately where my mind went to. I thought of like an At Midnight or a Joel McHale thing. What were your reactions to that?
I'll be honest. So when I first heard the concept, I kind of thought to myself, like, man, is this it? Like, is this what the concept of the show was going to be? And I think that was very, very, very premature, because the more, I kicked my microphone. The more I thought about it, the more I sort of was exploring different ways that this could be used. And then I had posed a question to you earlier on this week about like, how long do you think it should be? And we both agreed that it should be a shorter form video. And that was sort of when I was sort of coming to terms what the show was going to be and this and that. It just made so much sense that obviously we had heard Mark Fernandez talk on the town hall about how he wanted to have more audience involvement, audience interaction, this and that. We've talked about that. We talked about it last week with Mailbag. And so I like that. I like that whole aspect of it. And I also thought about the fact that whatever these images are, whatever these captions are, could easily be, like we've talked about earlier on this episode, just cut out and just shared on social media, especially if you have something that's really, really good. And so after watching it, I think not only did it make complete sense that this is exactly what they're going for, especially because they also talked too. This is one thing we didn't touch on. Maybe we will talk about. I don't know if it was in your notes or not, but we did have the return of Carpool on the Collider Instagram. They talked about that, how they were trying to build up their social media presence, and specifically Instagram. And I like that it incorporates this. It makes sense in that regard. This type of content has its audience, its specific audience. And that's great. I think it's going to appeal very well to them. For me personally, it's not the content that I latch onto. I'm not saying it's bad at all. I think they executed it really, really well. And I think Cody and Cobster are exciting people to have on this content. It's just, for me, I'm not its audience, and it might be because I turned 30 in September. I don't know what it is, but I am technically still a millennial. But yeah, I don't know. What did you think about the final product that we got?
Well, I agree with you. I was sort of underwhelmed by the idea, because I thought, look, the first bit of programming, new programming that we get, it should be a banger. Maybe it's the live show coming back. I don't know. Like, I was expecting something huge. But then again, to be totally fair, and I can hear someone at Collider arguing this, if they want to make waves, if they want to show the potential that Collider has, their first move is not to go back to, well, let's bring back Nightmares. No,
yeah, for
that's
sure.
not what they're going to do. They're going to introduce us to something completely different and show us a little bit about what the new flavor of Collider is all about. And to that point, this works. This works perfect. Like, I think, yes, I am underwhelmed by the idea of this being the first new thing, but it falls in line with everything that they said that they were going to do, and that they should do. And I do agree with that. I like the idea. I thought that Cody and Cobster and Joey, I think he filmed it. I thought that they all did a good job. I do think that they since they got the first one out of the way, it's the pilot, they sort of had to introduce the premise. I think the next ones are going to be a lot more concise and streamlined. They don't have to do all that intro stuff. They can just get right into it, make their jokes, and get out. And I think we could see it go down to maybe 4 minutes. And I think that I like that they only did 2. They didn't wear out their welcome. I think that they are totally on the right track. So great job by them. This is completely different than anything Collider has done. So
Yes.
I will give them huge props. Going back to my point about it, I thought it was going to be an Instagram show. So they posted the video on YouTube, but they also posted the intro portion of it to their Instagram feed. You can check it out right now. And, you know, if you're familiar, if you've seen any viral video like on Instagram or Facebook, you know how they have a top third and a lower third it's like black and white, and it's got like a subtitle text, if you will. Like, that's the format they went with when they included this on their Instagram feed. So in that aspect, it is like a very viral looking type video on Instagram. I really, really wish moving forward that they put a portion of the actual show on Instagram. Because like I said, I'm looking at it right now. It looks great on their Instagram, but it's only the intro. And it's only them introducing the idea. And maybe they have to do it because it is the first one. But moving forward, I want them to put clips of the actual video. I think that would be great. Maybe they film an extra one. Maybe they do 3 total, and one of those is the Instagram clip, and then they just leave the 2 remaining ones for the YouTube video. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with every bit of that. I think the show will get better and more concise and tighter the more that it goes on. And you're also correct in the sense where this is in the spirit of a lot of what they said. Like, if you have an idea, let's just try it. And that's sort of what it seems like. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, it just feels like, let's just fucking try this. Let's just do it. And it seems like what they did. And listen, guys, everybody there, even Mark Fernandez, if you're listening to this.
He's not.
This needs to just do it. Just live on. Do not look at numbers. Maybe the numbers are great. I have no idea. I hope they're fantastic. Just do this. Just do it. Don't ever cancel it. Don't ever get rid of it. Just do it. Just keep doing it, because even if it will find an audience, and I'm very confident in that. I also like the fact too that I like the fact that they're presenting this as a thing. It's branded. They did a great job. I have to throw this out because I've been critical of them doing this before. They did a fantastic job at cross-promoting it across a lot of different shows. On Movie Talk, They brought it up every week. Multiple people bringing it up. I think at one point even Riley brought it up on something. And I thought it was great. And, you know, I think the fact that it is branded, they are calling it a new show. And I like the fact that this could never work maybe it could, but it probably can't work in a podcast form. And that's something that we've been talking about, like develop the video for the video, develop the podcast for the podcast. And that's exciting to me. That's exciting to know now that when they say things like show, we're debuting a show on YouTube, that it is going to be specifically for video.
I'm not saying it shouldn't be on YouTube. Keep it on YouTube. Like you said, there's very little risk. There's very little risk. It's so short. I do question how long it took them to record it, because there are jump cuts. I wonder how long they gave Copster and Cody to do all this, which is fine. But when it comes to, you know, this very quick 6-minute video, it seems as if there's very little risk in continuing this. And it goes back to what you've said many times. There's no excuse for anything to be canceled ever on YouTube.
Yeah, especially when it's this small, like in terms of how it seemed like it was 3 people. I don't know who was throwing the balls and all this stuff. And maybe there are ways to sort of round off the corners and smooth things down to where it can be even quicker and you know, more quickly done. It seemed like most of the stuff was done in post, right? A lot of post-production stuff went into this.
Sure, absolutely. And I didn't mean to discount the work, but
no.
It absolutely should be on YouTube. That's fine, but this absolutely also belongs on Facebook. And I'm also looking forward to see what Dorian does now that he is sort of heading the social media. He's able to maybe he can rip this video, maybe he did rip the video from YouTube and he's able to upload it to Facebook, upload it to Instagram. Yes, it works for Instagram, but Facebook, like I said, it looks like a viral video on Facebook, and Facebook has a shareability factor that Instagram doesn't have necessarily. It's harder to regram than it is to share a video on Facebook. So this absolutely has a place, and I cannot wait to see how the show evolves over time.
I agree. I don't have anything else to add.
I think that pretty much covers everything. I just want to mention real quick, as it's right now, they are recording and performing and recording the live Schmoedown right now. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm excited. I'm excited for them. I'm excited to see how everything turns out. I'm excited to know the results. I don't know. Maybe I missed it somewhere. Is this being filmed? We are going to get this, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that I'm excited to see how that all plays out. Like, how long is this going to take before it's actually uploaded? I mean, all of that stuff. I'm very, very excited. It seems like, going into this, I was sort of trying to read Christian on Movie Talk today. He seemed fine. He didn't seem phased or affected or nervous, at least from what I could tell from it. So that makes me feel really, really good. I mean, he seems like somebody that thrives under pressure. Mark as well. Mark, I would never, ever, ever question Mark being nervous or anything like that for this.
Absolutely not.
I just know that this is Christian's baby, of course, and he wants this thing to work out more than anybody, as it should. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I hope that it went well. And obviously, people might have a better idea once they hear this, but yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, if this does well, more live stuff in the future, we all want that. So
live After Schmoe.
That's right.
What a weird experience that would be. Could you imagine just like seeing the crew potentially show up and we're just sitting there like ripping into I don't know, Makuga, and he's just standing. I mean, he doesn't work there anymore, but we're like ripping into Makuga, and he's just like sitting back there, like, what the fuck? Fuck these guys.
I do a lot of daydreaming about that kind of stuff. Like, I thought about my first appearance on the Schmoes No Show, if that were ever to exist, if we ever did like an After Schmoe in the studio with all of those people staring at us while we're talking about them. And you know what? Well, after today, I'm kind of worried that I would just be terrible because I've just been all over the place today. But it would be hilarious.
We could always follow my notes.
I have no intention of like standing down. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, if I have Roka there, I'm probably going to cut up with him and make fun of him more.
I feel like. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what people have in their mind. I mean, we've done stuff on video, and anytime you do stuff on video, it's much different.
Right.
I feel like you act a little bit different, but my body language when we typically record, I am just relaxed and chill anytime we record anything. I feel like people would sort of vibe off that as being like anything that they're talking about, I shouldn't take that serious. Which could hurt us. I have no idea.
I probably, just to be transparent, I approach talking about everyone in a different way. Like there are people like someone like Roka. I know Roka a lot. I have more of a relationship with Roka than a lot of people in the studio because he's been on a lot of my podcasts. So we've had a lot of fun conversations off air about just random things. I just feel more comfortable shooting the shit. And I mean, he might get mad if Christian's telling him, look, Snelling has no idea what you do when you produce heroes. I think Roka could get irritated with that, but I'm less likely to feel apologetic about it because with Roka, I'd be like, dude, we kind of know each other. I don't expect you to take this so seriously, but I think there are other people where I would be a little more self-conscious about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, Mark has done nothing but be incredibly genuine and kind and, you know, like forthcoming about things. So I'm always a little bit more weary to ever really get down on him just because, you know, obviously, and listen, people question that shit about the show all the time. Like some dumb jackass was like, oh, you guys are Collider cheerleaders. It's like, dude, that's just not the case. It's just simply not the case. But if you really, really want to know, if you want a human expression, a human reaction, yeah, I like some of these people. And sometimes it's not fucking fun to talk about people that we like. I mean, you know, it's in that way. It's not exciting to really nitpick Caption This. You know, I like those guys. So sorry if I'm not fucking holding their feet to the fire and I come across as a cheerleader, but I would rather talk about things that I want to talk about in the way that I want to talk about them.
Well, there are just so many examples that exist where we've been critical. And of course, the second that I find out or I see one of the Collider crew or Schmoe's No crew discount me or you or After Schmoe in general, it's a lot easier to not give a shit about what I say about said person. Like
Jeff Snyder.
Yeah. Like Jeff Snyder, like Makuga, like Beardo. It's like, look, you've never given me the benefit of the doubt ever. You've discounted, so I just have no problem saying this about that person. But I would also challenge every single one of our listeners to go back and find anything that I've ever said that just blatantly rips somebody in that way. And if you do find it, I guarantee I'm probably joking, especially when I poke at Christian, because I know that he is a little bit sensitive to things that are about him. But that's because, again, we have an understanding and we know each other a little bit more than I know other people in the studio. So what a really self-involved conversation.
Yeah, but you know what? It was in the middle of the show, and so Christian's not going to be upset.
That's true. We're all over the place here. It's because I had a LaCroix. I'm never going to do that again.
You're rocking and rolling off of the caffeine in LaCroix.
Yeah. Maybe it's because we recorded this 4 hours earlier than we usually do. Maybe.
Yeah, we have so much more energy. We should do this more often.
Am I ADHD? ADHD was created by Big Pharma just to drug. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not even comfortable doing that. So many people could get mad at me.
See Brett Sheridan as an example.
It's time to end the show. What a weird, interesting way to celebrate our 1-year anniversary. So strange. But we're still here, whether you like it or not. Jay, take us out.
That's all we got this week, you filthy bastards. I'm really excited that you guys stop by and hang out with us every single week, even if we are cheerleading. You know, it feels great. I dated a cheerleader in high school. They're nice people, too. Anyways, you can find me.
I wish I could have.
You can find me on. I dated too, actually. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jaye Williams, J to the A to the Y to the E. Sometimes I was afraid because they were more athletic than I am, which is cool. I respect that. J to the A to the Y to the E on Twitter and Instagram. It's the same for both. I'm doing that music show that you guys want on Sight and Sound every single Friday. You can come hang out. I don't know. We'll talk about some things that you probably don't give a shit about. We sell some things online too. And I don't know. There's other stuff going on. Where can I find you online?
I think I was more of a dance team guy.
I show love to all athletes, even the curlers.
Dance team and softball girls I was really into in high school.
So this really off subject. My senior year, I didn't want to play football at all. And I ended up doing it to appease my parents. And in order to get out of spring training, I joined the track team doing shot put and discus. And I also was pursuing a female as well in that. I ended up quitting halfway through because she wasn't interested in me anymore. And I wasn't even very good at throwing the Frisbee, so.
I used being in a band as a way to get chicks. That was what
really?
I did. Yeah, I didn't have to play organized sports to do it.
That only happened once for me.
Just
once.
I was an artist, Jay. I thought chicks dig rock stars, and it worked. But it doesn't now because I'm not in a band.
Yeah. Being in a band now is as sexy as telling a girl that you have a podcast.
Yeah.
So.
What a weird way to end the show. I'm Ryan Snelling. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at WhatUpSnell. Peace out. Peace out. Peace out. Peace out.